It's time for the Kim Hammer Show, where you'll learn how your state government affects you, your family, and community. Here's Kim Hammer.
Good Saturday afternoon. Thank you for joining me here on the Kim Hammer Show the day before 4th of July when we celebrate our freedom and independence. And we've got a great show lined up here today. You're watching via live Facebook. You're wondering, well, how many more people can you pack into the studio because we are packed in tight? But that's because we brought the brain thrust of Constitution into the room today because it is the 4th of July. And so we want to celebrate our independence. And we also want to talk about the Constitution that is our framework of why we have freedom. So if you're watching Facebook Live, I'll go around the room and introduce everybody. If you're listening on the radio, just use your vivid imagination, okay? So I've got Jennifer and Clint Lancaster right here, a great couple from Saline County down in Benton, both of them attorneys. And then I've got Doyle and Barbara Webb, getting you there, Justice Webb. We've got Doyle and Barbara Webb in the room, and then we got Dallas Green and her daughter Piper over here. Wave to the camera, Piper. There you go. And then I've got Blakely, my granddaughter, because we are on grandparent duty day today. And so we are all packed in here to talk about the Constitution. So let me just say thank you all for everybody being in the room, okay? All right, now, part of what brought us into the show today, though, was we want to talk about something that I picked up on Facebook, and I saw that I think, Jennifer, you and Dallas are working together on, and maybe, the others are contributing, but it's something called the Constitutional Camp. So what is the Constitutional? Tell us all about it and give us a little bit of a taste about it.
Constitution Camp is something that Mindy McAllendon sent to me, and she was doing that in Tennessee. When she was in Tennessee, she is our state's national committee person for the Arkansas Federation of Republican Women. And she just sent this to me because I had said I would like to do several different things to educate the population, because a lot of people don't really know about the Constitution or anything that is really going on in our political system. So I forwarded it to Jennifer, and Jennifer homeschools her children, and she teaches them so many wonderful things about the Constitution and our government. So that's her thing, and she just did some amazing things. She kind of tweaked it and changed it up a little bit so we could have it on multiple days and bring the kids out. And I'm really excited about bringing children from second grade all the way to ninth grade into this program so we can teach them about some things that they're probably not getting in school. And I will let Jennifer talk more about that because she has really done all the hard work. And I'm so excited because it's going to be very successful. And I really think people from around the state are going to pick this up and do this in their community.
Jennifer?
Well, thank you. Thank you for having us. So what the goal of this is, we're wanting to teach kids about the Constitution, but beyond that, we want them to develop an appreciation for what our founding fathers did with this experiment. And America is a great experiment. And so we're wanting to teach the kids, give them even further background so that they can truly appreciate the Constitution and what it stands for. So each day, this is a 5-day camp. It is going to be held in Bryant at Cross Point Church. And every day we're going to begin with the pledge, a prayer, and then we're going to talk about one of our national symbols. Following that, we will have a skit and then a special guest. One of those special guests will be our Justice Barbara Webb, who will be joining us. Yes, we're very excited about that. And then we will follow that with some games and then breakout sessions. And during those breakout sessions each day, we will focus on a different topic. Those topics will include, of course, the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, the pledge, the difference between a republic and a democracy, and the Declaration of Independence.
You going to give a test at the end?
No, but
Good, I'll come.
we are going to give prizes.
Oh,
Multiple prizes
Okay.
throughout the day. And then at the conclusion of the camp on Friday, we will have a presentation for all the parents who are welcome to join in at any point during the camp throughout the entire week. But Friday morning, we are going to show the parents what we've been learning. Then we will conclude with a fun party out in the parking lot with snow cones and inflatables.
All right. So it's going to be a 5-day camp, and what time is it going to be for?
9 to noon.
9 to noon. Okay, and it's at Cross Point. And if you'll email me something on that, I'll get that up on my Kim Hammer Show website, which is www.thekimhammershow.com website. And then that way, now people need to pre-register?
Yes,
Okay. And what's the total number that you're going to let in the camp?
50.
50. Oh, good night, man. You guys are going to book up fast. So what are you going to do if you get 200 signed up? What are you going to do?
You know what? We'll just make it happen.
Okay.
Everyone, they're welcome.
Okay. Okay. Well, I could see multiple things coming out of this. So this was this y'all's idea then, or was it birthed out of, did you say Tennessee or?
Well, I honestly don't know where Mindy found it. She was just something that she did when she was involved with the Republican Party in Tennessee. And I had spoken with her about wanting to do several different things that educated. And I was thinking adults. But when she sent me that about the kids, I was like, well, that's our future. You know, we should train our children in the way they should go. That means also in the way we want them to. Did you say the dates? The July 26th? Okay. Through
July
the 30th.
26th through
Through the 30th.
Through the 30th. Oh, okay. That's coming up into this month. And so is there a cost associated with it?
Yes, it's $35.
35. Okay. All right. I tell you what I'll do. I'll make a commitment on the air. If you get some kids that want to come, but that's an issue, I'll scholarship 5.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So if you get any that have a hard way,
Thank you.
making it, because we want to make sure that we reach out to all the kids. And what age groups are we talking about again?
Second through ninth.
2nd through 9th. Are you going to have them all grouped together, or are you going to split them up?
Both.
Okay.
So we're going to start out with an assembly, so in a group setting
It's
every
like
morning.
a VBS is what this is.
Very similar,
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yes.
kind of.
Okay.
And then we're gonna have the breakout sessions, 2nd through 4th, 5th through 7th, 8th, and 9th.
Okay. Very good. So when it comes to what you're going to teach about the Constitution, because some people teach it differently, what's going to be the basis for how you determine what you teach? What's going to be the criteria so that they get taught the right Constitution?
You know, I think it's really important that the kids understand why the Constitution was crafted the way it was. They need to understand the philosophers and their thinking that influenced our founding fathers, because it's important not to just understand that we have a Constitution and what it says. It's important that we all understand why it was crafted this way. And there were many philosophers that influenced our founding fathers, from Hume, Locke, Montesquieu. And they were all instrumental, and you can see them cited throughout our founding documents. Now, these philosophers were influenced by, of course, the events of their time. Many of them witnessed upheaval and turmoil in their respective countries. And so it was through what they witnessed that birthed their philosophies and these ideals. And our founding fathers were each students of history, and they understood, they took these writings from these great philosophers and thinkers, and they came together to craft what is our Constitution. And I think it's going to be very important that the kids understand that what makes our Constitution so unique is that it is a restraint on our government. It is not giving individuals rights. There is an acknowledgement. Our Declaration of Independence, the documents begin with "we the people." So we are giving the government, we are sanctioning them to govern, and that can be taken away by the people. And so we're hoping to impart to these kids that we have been given inalienable rights. That means they cannot be surrendered, they cannot be taken away, and those rights come from God. And our government is there just to maintain peace and to protect those individual rights. So that is going to be the basis, and from where we're going to begin our study of the Constitution. And then, of course, we will just go through the Constitution and talk about what it means, and then, of course, follow up with the Bill of Rights.
So, Doyle, let me ask you a question. 10 years, chairman of the Republican Party here in the state of Arkansas, you brought us to a great level. Taken away by the people was a phrase that Jennifer just referred to. In your 10 years, in your experience, do you find that is a strategy of some in the political world, that they are trying to reshape and restructure the Constitution to where there are rights that are taken away?
You know, I think that's a good question, Kim, and I appreciate your having me on. Clearly, That's the difference between a conservative government and a liberal government. That's a difference between a conservative interpretation of the Constitution and laws and a liberal interpretation. And that's a cosmic battle, I think, that's going on right now between the sacred and the secular in this world, okay? The sacred is trying to protect what God has given us, and the secular is trying to take it away. Now, that's a very broad statement, but that's from where we're coming. Every time we see a federal regulation come in or something of that nature, it is taking away some of our rights. And I think our founding fathers were no slouches. They were brilliant individuals that knew the philosophy of the day, but also knew the sacred understanding of life and liberty. And I think that's important. But yes, the short answer is yes. That's the battle. I think our legislature was very proactive this time in shutting down some of the things that could impact our lives by retaining freedom for individuals.
And that's what is perplexing to me is why do people want to give away their freedoms to the government? It's like a teeter-totter. And if one side gets weighted heavier than the other, then it's just a question of time before it goes too far. And then once it goes too far, how do you get it back?
You know, I when I was in the Senate, I was in the state Senate years ago, but there's two statements that meant a lot to me. One by a Democrat, President Kennedy. Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country. And then a Greek philosopher said, when the freedom we seek is freedom from responsibility, we will cease to be free. I mean, people just want to they want to enjoy the good life and have no responsibility.
Eat, drink, and be merry.
Okay.
For tomorrow we die.
That's right. And when you do that and you give all the responsibility to the government, once again, a government big enough to give you everything you want is big enough to take everything you have. So it's a cosmic battle between sacred and secular is what's going on.
And I think that is what, again, the word perplexes me most, is it is a battle between good and evil,
Yes.
right and wrong. I think God and Satan, just put it point blank. I think Satan hates everything that we do as Americans that provides freedom and reflects who God is. And I think we're in a spiritual battle. We wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers. And I think that's what we're in the battle of. People that don't have a spiritual basis don't see it that way. I think they're looking at it from that secular perspective.
Exactly.
And so they don't see anything wrong with the direction that we're heading because they're happy heading that direction. But the problem is, at what point will you wake up, or will they wake up and realize that all of a sudden now the government is controlling your life, but it's too late at that point?
It's easy to look and people forget about Venezuela and what was going on in Venezuela or the Soviet Union or communist countries, okay, or socialist countries. And we have to guard against that because we can give up those God-given rights and once they're gone, you can't get them back.
All right. I'm going to turn to Justice Webb. Here we go. Share the headset with her there.
Yeah.
So let me ask you, as a justice, what restraints do you have to have in place on yourself to make sure that you, as a judge, do not violate the Constitution yourself in your rulings? Because as these cases come up before the Arkansas Supreme Court, in your case, and decisions have to be made, how do you, as an individual judge, show good restraint on yourself so that you're not ruling or changing things from the bench?
That's a good question. And it's one that I've gotten real familiar with over the last 6 months while I've been on the
Go
court.
ahead and pull the mic a little closer to you there.
And, first of all, I think it helps that I do have a strong faith background. And so my natural instincts when I see a case, usually I go back to the values that I was raised, the education I have, and that helps me guide that I try to approach things based on, you know, just the things that I'm familiar with. But more importantly, you have to look at the precedent. You have to look at, you have to look at the Constitution. You've got to make sure you don't read something into the Constitution that's not there, and you've got to go back to just basically interpreting the Constitution as it was written. It helps that I have good law clerks, including Jennifer.
Plug, plug.
Plug, plug. And they, and we have some in conference discussions and conversations among myself and my law clerks and among the other justices, which also helps because then it just helps you stay on track, if you will. And, one of the things I said when I was running for the court was that I believe that, there is a reason for the separation of powers and that we have to drive in our own lane. We can't drive in each other's lane. And I think that is something we see a lot at the court, trying to make sure the legislature is making
Stay
the
where
laws.
we're supposed to stay.
No. That the court doesn't get into the business of making law,
Right.
and that the court stays in its own lane as well. So that's kind of the approach that I take.
So let me, and if this puts you in an awkward way, just say, can't do it, okay?
Sure.
But when you, as a judge, are ruling on something of constitutional basis, it's brought before you and somebody said, those legislators passed a bill that's unconstitutional, because we've got our attorneys that we trust in order to make sure that we don't write something that's unconstitutional. And then we seek outside counsel, like Clint sitting over here, who I think is a constitutionalist, and we'll say, okay, look at this, and are we going to get sued over this because it's unconstitutional? And then, quite honestly, sometimes we push the envelope and we want it to get in front of the court, because until you can get it in front of the court and get a ruling, both sides will argue that they're right, but it's got to be put in a referee's hand, if you would, or umpire's hand, and that would be you to make a decision. Okay, the legislature was right, or this group was right who's suing, saying that the legislature was wrong. What do you do as a judge to make sure that when you rule, it is truly measured against constitutionality? Do you have Jennifer go in and just research everything and bring you all the documents? Do you, get in a room and just kind of fight it out and say, okay, this we've all, so that when the ruling comes out, it's truly something that you as a judge wouldn't get criticized because you ruled on something that was unconstitutional? Can you answer that question first of all?
I think you asked 2 or 3 there, but
Yeah, I'm known for asking 2 or 3. Well, we got 8 minutes to the break. But give it your best shot. So anyway.
well, I think we do it all. I mean, is the answer to that question, and it's every case is unique that comes to the court. I mean, there are cases obviously that, as I said before, that we've seen similar issues in the past. So we do follow stare decisis unless we take a break from a prior decision. And if we do that, we believe, or I believe, that you have to do it in the right process. And I think we've written a decision to that effect this term, that the court has to look at certain factors if they're going to depart from stare decisis and make sure that they're not adding confusion and lack of clarity to the law, because that's not fair to the people or the litigants. So, but as far as the Constitution is concerned, I think that we do a lot of research. We do the law clerks, look at the prior case law. We look at the interpretations, the cases that have gone before the U.S. Supreme Court, and the cases that have come before the Arkansas Supreme Court on Arkansas constitutional law. And then we do conference it among the judges, and the law clerks conference with they all talk with each other and communicate with each other, and then we ultimately, the 7 of us on the court have to vote, and we don't always agree.
That could be a good thing sometimes.
So then you might see a series of opinions that come out of the court. We recently issued an opinion that was pretty much a plurality that dealt with a constitutional issue on a act of the state legislature involving kid safety seats, and what evidence could be used in a trial that involves the use of safety, or the lack of putting your child in a safety seat. And that resulted in several decisions. It took us several months to even get a decision out on that case. We went through multiple drafts of opinions, I think I can say that. But we ultimately came out, which I think with a decision that that I think the court has spoke on. It doesn't mean it'll be the last one because obviously there'll be more coming down the pike. But and then I think we actually had that issue come up in the plant board case, which we ruled that the way the plant board appointees, at least 9 of them, were being appointed unconstitutionally, and that was a case that had not been brought to the court. And so for over 100 years, that's how the appointments had been done. But yet, when the case finally came to the court, we looked at it and ruled the way we believe the Constitution provides. So they have to ask us first. and
that's sometimes why we run legislation, because we want to ask you. We want judges to help us decide. But anyway, go ahead.
No, I was just going to. I think I was looking at one of the U.S. Supreme Court's cases recently, and they were talking about. I think it was a Justice Thomas decision where he made the same kind of comment about, you can do things for a number of years that are unconstitutional until somebody questions you on it.
Right.
And so it's incumbent upon the public, the people, as Jennifer alluded to earlier, we the people, to hold our government accountable. And that's the way you do it, is if there's something that you believe is unconstitutional, then it needs to be challenged and get to the proper review process.
Okay. We got about 5 minutes before I got to take a break, but you hit on subject matter a minute ago and incorporated the word faith. And so let me go to you, Dallas and Jennifer. When it comes to what you're going to teach at the Constitution Camp, what are you going to do as far as where faith and God comes into the role of how the Constitution was written and the balance or the bringing in of spirituality into the Constitution?
I think that's for Jennifer to answer, because she's really the detail person on putting this together. But God is always in the forefront of what we're doing. That's one of the party principles of the Republican Party, and it's my principle too, personally. So, but I will let you, Jennifer, answer that, because she knows for sure what we're doing.
We got about 2 minutes.
Okay, I'll do my best to keep this brief. Well,
and we can carry over if y'all hold over after break.
Okay. Well, there's no denying that our founding fathers were, many of them were devout Christians. The Bible was cited more frequently than any other document in our founding documents. And of course, our documents even make reference to God. So there's no way to avoid it, and we're not going to try to avoid it. We are a nation under God. And as far as, that will, of course, be incorporated in our discussions regarding the Constitution, but also we are going to talk about American exceptionalism. And I think many people think American exceptionalism is that we have been, we're chosen by God and we're blessed by God. There is no doubt that we have been blessed by God. Chosen by God, we're probably going to talk, we're probably going to take a little bit different path. And the reason why is because I believe the Jews that's the nation that was chosen by God. We have been blessed by God because God is faithful and he keeps his promises. And we see throughout the Bible that he makes promises. Abraham, Adam, we saw so often where God promised to bless the nation if they kept his laws. And we are a nation under God. And we are a people who adhere to the biblical principles. And as a result, we have been blessed by God. And as long as we continue to adhere to those principles and to give glory to God and follow the Bible, we will continue to be blessed.
And he also says he will bless the nation that blesses Israel.
That's right.
That's right.
And yes, Israel is God's chosen people. You don't like that? Take it up with God. Good luck winning that argument. Can I get a witness? Number two, he does say that the nation that blesses and stands by Israel, he will bless. And it would be in the best interest of the leaders of America to remember that, because at the end of the day, set all the policy argument aside, if we don't remain loyal and faithful, there's no reason for God to keep us around. He'll find somebody else. All right, we got to take a break here on the Kim Hammer Show. You're listening to the Kim Hammer Show here on 101.1 FM The Answer. My guests today are Jennifer and Clint Lancaster, two attorneys from down in the Benton area, Doyle and Barbara Webb. Glad to have them in the studio today, helping educate us on the Constitution and seeing it from their perspective. and then Dallas Green, who's the chairman of Saline County Women's Republican Party down in Saline County, along with her daughter, Piper, back off to the side. And then I've got one of my 5 grandchildren and 2 more on the way. Thank you very much. Yeah. So we'll have 7. This is Blakely. Yes, we are a family-friendly show here at the Kim Hammer Show. And so you come back afterwards, and we're going to talk a little bit more about the Constitution Camp. And remember, I'll get that information. Get it up on my website, www.thekimhammershow.com. They're only going to take 50. So if you want to get in, you better get in quick, and I'll need to get phone numbers or email or something like that. We'll be back in just a minute here on the Kim Hammer Show. Welcome back to the Kim Hammer Show here on 101.1 FM. The Answer. I'm having a little trouble controlling the mob that's in the studio today, but we will get it all together. We've got Jennifer and Clint Lancaster that's in the studio today. Got Doyle and Barbara Webb that are in the studio, and they've got Dallas Green and her daughter Piper right here, and I've got my granddaughter Blakely. They'll be back here in a second. As I mentioned a while ago, this is a family-friendly show, so every once in a while, because of duties, like grandpa duties, you bring your grandkids with you, and hopefully they'll get a little bit of a taste of what it's like, and hopefully one day they'll want to do something like I'm getting the privilege to do. We're talking about the Constitution Camp that's going to be put on by Dallas and Jennifer. It is going to be hosted down in Saline County at Cross Point Church. It's going to be July 26th through 30th. It'll be from 9 in the morning till noon. Is that right? Okay. And I need to, before we get out of here, so you can get your pen and paper handy, we'll get an email address that Jennifer can give to us in a minute, or a phone number that you can call. It's for 2nd through 9th grade, and they're only going to take 50. So it's something that if you want to do, you better get in there quick. And I do know Jennifer and Dallas both personally. I can tell you, your kids are going to get a quality education about the Constitution, and they are going to have a fun time doing it as well. And so it's something that definitely you want to get involved in. All right, here's a couple things we're going to talk about in the second half of the Kim Hammer Show. So y'all, I'm going to give you a little advanced notice. You talked about before we left a minute ago, Jennifer, about one of the things you're going to talk about is the American exceptionalism. I want to ask y'all what you think about that, number one. Number two, I'm going to ask you what the 4th of July means to you, because tomorrow is the 4th of July. Part of the reason we're having this discussion day is because of the Constitution, that without it, we wouldn't have the freedoms that we enjoy, and somebody had to pay a price for us to be able to get those freedoms. And then here's the deeper subject, and that is, what do you think the other side is doing as far as their strategy, their playbook, to undercut the Constitution and try to destroy the Constitution? What is the game plan of the other side, and what do you think their strategy is as far as how they're trying to destroy the Constitution? Okay? Dallas, you can have a seat right there if you want to. So let me start off. I'm going to come to you first, Clint, because you're an attorney. You know the Constitution, and you are in a position, if you don't, you do now, so just act real good if you don't, okay? When it comes to you as an attorney, and you've got to go into the courtroom and say you've got to defend a position involving a point of Constitution, what is it you're going to do to prepare, and how is it that you're going to strive to win the case if you're the one representing what is say I'm a legislator. Say I am. Some would debate that. Okay, let's just say today I'm a legislator and I pass a piece of legislation that I think is constitutional. Some group sues and says, no, we want to get it before the Supreme Court. You're going to have to represent me. Okay, what do you have to do, and what are you going to do in order to make sure that we win?
So thank you. And again, thank you for having me back. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look at where are we going? What are we trying to accomplish? And we're going to take what I call like a macro view of that. And so ultimately we want your statute to be upheld as constitutional. And so what I'm going to do then is I'm going to really start focusing on details. And my experience as an attorney is if you take care of the little details, big details take care of themselves. They just work themselves out. So what I'm going to start doing is I'm a textualist. I'm an originalist. I feel that.
What does that mean to those that may not understand?
Sure. So a textualist is someone who believes that the Constitution means what it plainly says. Okay, we're not going to inject words. Justice Scalia, the late Supreme Court justice, was very big into not adding words or meanings that didn't need to be there. And so that's how I am. I believe things should be plainly read and plainly interpreted. And then I'm an originalist, so I believe that those words that I'm plainly interpreting are in the same context that they were when they were drafted by our founding fathers. I don't believe they've evolved with time. I don't believe that our perspective on that has changed. And so ultimately what I do at a trial court level is I'm not so focused on winning at trial. Okay, when your trial courts, I often find they pass bucks like we saw up in Wisconsin and things of that nature. Our litigation strategy is really drafted for someone like Justice Webb. I'm also a legal realist, and what that means is if I understand the backgrounds, beliefs, and ideologies of the justices on the court, then I can craft facts that when provided to them, I can somewhat predict the outcome. So, for example, in Arkansas right now, you have Justice Webb, Justice Rhonda Wood, and Justice Womack. Those are three conservatives, okay? I view them as conservatives. So when I am looking for something up at the Supreme Court, I'm looking to pull in a swing vote from somewhere because I got to have four. And so I'm banking that I can get these three to go with my position because it's a textualist and originalist, and I'm starting to create evidence at the trial court level that will help me pull in a swing vote from some other justice. So that's kind of what the strategy is. I do a lot of research, and this is probably a much more in-depth answer than you wanted.
Now keep going.
So I do a lot of research. I find some laws, and then I craft my arguments for the trial court to those laws, and I make sure that record is built. So
you're not trying to win round one. You're trying to win the final round. When it gets up to the top, that's the one you're trying to win.
That's correct. But the details at that trial court level are so critical. Because if you don't, in Arkansas, if you didn't raise it below, you didn't preserve it for a review on appeal. So you got to make sure that you get your rulings and you get your positions made clear so that you can really feed that to the justices when you're talking about the facts that you have that affect their background and views. You don't want to just feed that to them. You want to butter it up. You want to bake it nicely. Let's put a cherry on top and make it easy for them.
You should have been a salesman, man.
I could sell you a heater right now.
Okay, yeah, I bet you can. You are a good salesman if that's the case. So some people would say the Constitution is an outdated document. You hit on that a minute ago. You said you're a realist. Some would say the Constitution is an outdated document. It needs to be current to the times. The dangers as you see it, because I know you appreciate the Constitution. I know you appreciate conservative values. The dangers to trying to change the Constitution to something more realistic of where we are today. Where's the danger?
So I believe the danger is in whose views matter. I mean, if you look at our Constitution, this thing's been doing a good job for a number of years. So, why fix it if it's not broken? But if you just want to take one hot button issue, let's take abortion, okay? You have one group of people who look at this from the left side and tilt their head, and they say life doesn't begin until that baby is born. Therefore, this isn't a life, and you can kill this thing. Over here on the right side, looking at it straight ahead, says, look, our documents say everybody's entitled to life, and that thing is alive inside of his or her mother, okay? And when you abort it, you kill it, so you don't have a right to do that. The problem is we already have so much disparity in these views that we can't come to an agreement about something as simple as when life begins. So how are we going to reform this document to something where we can all agree on how our government should run? That's a big problem. Whose views matter is the problem. We can't even fully agree on the interpretation of the one we have. Why would we need to go make another one that we're not going to agree on?
Which is the importance of keeping conservatives in office, because if you have conservatives who share the same views as you do, we protect the Constitution as it was originally written, which is the basis for why our nation was founded and what has preserved our nation all these years. I guess the one thing in the word of the day is perplexed. The thing that perplexes me is, as you said, if it's worked for all these years, what is it, the change that is no longer working? It's not that the document has changed, it's that people have changed. That brings the question, what changed the people? I think what changed the people was they get away from God and they get away from spiritual values and spiritual principles that the Constitution was written on. And when that happens, and you see a society that's doing that which is right in their own eyes, and they don't want the Constitution around, like they don't want the Bible around, because that convicts them and holds them accountable for their actions, and people don't want to be held accountable for their actions today.
I agree, and it's like Doyle said earlier. Too many people they want their government to do for them. I'm going to have a baby. I'm entitled to welfare. I can't get a job. I'm entitled to unemployment. Nobody is asking what they can do for the government, and instead they're relying too much on the government. When I was in South Africa, you got assistance, welfare assistance for like 7 months, and then after that you didn't get anything. If you couldn't get it together in 7 months, it was over. But that's not how it is. Our people, we want the government to give us more. And like, oh, I want more. And people are thinking too much about them and not so much about the greater cause.
Well, I want you to take care of me at somebody else's expense, called the taxpayers. So, all right, let's shift gears a second. Doyle, I'm coming back to you. Wake up.
I couldn't go to sleep on that.
Okay, all right. Well, you wanted to chime in. I could tell your wheels were turning, so chime in.
Well, if you want to change it, there is an amendment process. Clearly an amendment process, not to liberally change it through interpretation, but if the public wants to change the Constitution, amend it, there's a process, but it takes an overwhelming majority to do that.
It was made hard for a reason.
It was made hard for a reason. That's right.
Yep. Okay, so I'm gonna come back with you on this one. The term American exceptionalism was used a while ago. What do you interpret that to mean, and how is that detrimental?
This country is unique, and it has always done unique things for the good of humankind, and that's exceptional. That's exceptional, that we've always looked out for others. Yes, we try to look to take care of the world. We try to look to take care of ourselves, but in a freedom point of view. And that's something special about this country. We are not a selfish country. We are exceptional. God's grace has been shed upon us, and we share that grace with others as well.
Well, should exceptionalism be something we apologize for?
Never.
But that's what people want to do.
Not
everybody.
I will say this. I'm sure our country, on occasion, I've even made a mistake. Okay? I'm sure our country, on occasion, has made a mistake.
Well, Barbara's talking after you, so just remember that. So get your list together, Barbara.
Not me, I haven't.
But the intent has always been a good intent. Okay? And that's exceptional. And we don't have to apologize if we had a good intent to try and help people. Maybe it didn't always turn out the way we anticipated. Maybe sometimes human characteristics get involved, selfishness, greed, evil gets involved, and it perverts the good. But that doesn't change the fact that the intent was good and it was exceptional that we were concerned about others and others' well-being.
And shouldn't exceptionalism be the standard that you want to aim for? I mean, it's not like we want to
It should be our personal goal to be exceptional. It should be our national goal to be exceptional. I think God calls us to be exceptional.
I don't think mediocre is in fact, the
You're
intent
either hot or cold. You can't be lukewarm.
Or
That's
I will
right.
spew you out of your mouth.
That's right.
So, okay. All right. Now, here's Heidi, give me a signal as far as how much time we got there. What's the strategy? What's the strategy of those who want to destroy the Constitution as far as how they're going about doing it? It's not something you're going to see on the billboard driving up and down the interstate. It's going to be that slow behind the scene, chip away, erosion type process.
The government is the answer. That's the strategy. The government is the give all, the do all. We'll take care of you. The government will take care of you, not the freedoms that God has given you to. The Constitution doesn't say anything life, liberty, and we guarantee happiness.
But
It's life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness.
Why does that resonate with people? Why does that resonate with people? That, to me,
life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness?
No, the fact that people want the government to take care of them. That, I'm asking the question, what's the strategy of the enemy? What's the playbook of the enemy? That's the ultimate goal that you're saying.
I know that Clint is sitting over there with the answer.
I can see him salivate, wanting to get on it right here in a minute. But give me the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 strategy of what the enemy's trying to do as far as destroy the Constitution, because it's heading that direction.
I think the number one thing they want you to do, or they want to do, is they want you to believe that government action is necessary. For example, let's take a look at COVID. Government action was necessary to save us from COVID. And if that's that, and so when you start getting into that, you start finding justifications to switch things around. And then those justifications, the masses, they're given to the masses, and they seem like the government's trying to help them. And pretty soon they don't realize that's what's really happening is they're moving further and further away from constitutional values. And once the masses have accepted that. For example, I heard someone tell me one time, never show your church congregation building plans, because then they're going to want it no matter what. Same thing is true for the masses. Once they get fed this, they're okay with it, even if it's bad, even if it's bitter. And then they just start building on that. And pretty soon you look back and you're like, man, how did I get here? But, kind of like Social Security, Medicare, how do you get rid of it now?
We're going through a church building program, and our church members are seeing our church plan. That's what I was thinking about when you said that. I'm thinking, well, I hope they're not listening today. Cat's out of the bag. But do you see that as something that's being institutionalized into our children? Here you guys are. Y'all going to do a constitutional camp. Yeah. And, again, that's going to be July 26th through the 30th. The last thing we're going to say on the show before we go today is how to get hold of y'all on that, okay? But Jennifer wants to say something. I can see it, Doyle. Give it to her. She's wanting to say something.
Well,
really
let me say something
this.
quickly before she does.
Okay.
I think it's too simple to say we're trying to undo the Constitution. Okay. I think it's bigger than that. It's who do we rely on, and do we rely on our relationship with a secular God, the government, or a spiritual God, God Almighty? Okay, I think that like when Rockefeller used to say, the Constitution is just the owner's manual. It's not what is owned. Okay, I'm turning it over to Jennifer now.
Kind of hit on it. You kind of want to 1, 2, 3. And so I'm going to basically summarize a lot of what was just said. I think first, our Constitution, something that was unique is that there was a focus on individual responsibility. And that is what we see promoted so much through the Constitution. So first, I think they're going to undermine personal responsibility. They're going to say it's not your fault. There's going to be an excuse for everything, and there's going to be someone else to blame. And we see this with the victimization and the victimhood that everyone seems to be engaging in these days. Second, I do think they're undermining the Constitution. You often see people say it is outdated, as you mentioned. And so they have to ultimately just undermine and destroy the Constitution or any respect that we have for it. So I think you're going to see those two things. And then, of course, as Doyle just said, the focus and the reliance will no longer be on God. It will be on the government. When you look to the government to meet your needs, to make you happy, then of course your focus and your faith is no longer on God, even if you say it is. If you look to the government for the answers, if you look to government for security, if you look to government to meet your needs, then you no longer, then that's really how we're going to see the demise of our country.
I'll tell you what I want to do a Kim Hammer show on, and I'll bring y'all back, and we'll see if we can cram 5 more people in here. Heidi, turn your head. But what I'd really like to have a show about is the process by which, and I've used this term before, the playbook. What is the strategy? Who's the strategist for the other side that they have systematically been putting things in place in order to erode the Constitution and to bring the secularism that has been referred to and the thought processes that would replace what our founding fathers intended to be? Are they institutionalizing and brainwashing our kids through the educational system? And hey, listen, to all my educators that are friends, I'm not blanket statement, okay? It's not a blanket statement. But yet, when you hear the stories that you do, then you have to wonder, getting people dependent upon the government to where if something happened one day, you wouldn't be self-reliant, you would be government reliant. The strategy that if I was to write, how am I going to destroy America? What is the process by which the others are systematically trying to go through it? Okay, I'm down to about 8 minutes. So here's the question I want to ask each one of y'all. So just share the mic. You don't have to put the headphone on. What's the 4th of July mean to you? Because tomorrow's the 4th of July. Jennifer, you got the headset on. We're just going to work our way around. And so what does the 4th of July mean to you?
The 4th of July, it means freedom. It means the ultimate faith in God. And it's a time to remember the great sacrifices that were made by so many to preserve our freedoms and to create this great nation.
Doyle? It gets harder as it goes down the line, too, by the way. So, Doyle.
I understand. I'm going to be real simple. It means a lot about family. It used to mean a lot about hamburgers and homemade ice cream and kids just playing. But all of that was made possible by the sacrifice of men and women and the great thought of great individuals who designed this Constitution. Thank you.
Barbara?
And I'll make it personal. For me, we always had family reunions around the 4th of July, but we also enjoyed the fireworks and the patriotism. And my family all had, my uncles, my dad, and grandparents, they all served in the military. They all sacrificed, and the family sacrificed. So I think all that brings it home on the 4th of July that we do get to have the freedoms that someone else did sacrifice and protect for us. And it's just, for me, it's family.
Okay.
For me, this is probably, I'm glad it got harder going down the line. So the thing I think about on the 4th of July is the concept of maximal liberty. So if I wanted to take and swing my fist like a windmill, I'm free to do that in America, and my freedom to do that ends at your nose. And if you think about that, that's a really great concept of liberty. And I think that part of what makes America exceptional is this concept of maximal liberty is something that America has fought and died for and would do again. And so when I think of the 4th of July, I think of the implementation of a theoretical maximal liberty and how America became exceptional defending that.
Spoken like a Marine.
Hoorah.
Hoorah.
Our freedom ends where somebody else's nose begins.
That's all people are going to remember about the Kim Hammer Show.
That's right.
All right, Piper, you're going to get to finish it up. All right, Dallas?
It's kind of hard to follow what Clint just said, but it's about the simple things, the homemade ice cream and the ribs, and it's about remembering people like my grandfathers and your forefather and the forefathers that fought and died for our country and served and sacrificed, and the grandmothers that stayed home and kept everything going in the country. It's about those things to me, and it's about our sovereignty. It's about the Constitution, and it's a good time to reflect on that with fireworks.
There you go. There, light up the sky.
That's
All right, Piper, give it to us from a fifth grader's perspective. What does the 4th of July mean to you?
4th of July is like spending time with family and friends, and my grandpa makes the best ribs, so he just makes the best. And then my mom makes homemade ice cream, and then we just shoot off fireworks, and then we just have a really good time. And there's so many memories.
There you go.
There you go. Seen from the eyes of a child. All right. Here's what 4th of July means to me. It's about celebrating freedom. So in order to celebrate freedom, you got to have that basis of the Constitution that has given us our freedom. You got to remember those that have fought and have died and that are serving today to preserve our freedom. You've got to remember them. You've got to remember that you have the freedom to do even that which may be uncomfortable, that you may not like that somebody else is doing. You have the freedom to allow them to do that, but you also have the freedom to give them a better argument than for you to do what they're doing. And that's the importance of the First Amendment right, but that's also the importance of the freedom of religion too, that we can share that there's a better pathway forward than the direction that some people are taking this country in. So to me, it's about celebrating freedom. I almost forgot, so let me give a shameless plug. Tonight at 6:30 in the city of Tull, the community of Tull, where I pastor a church, we are going to enjoy our 4th of July fireworks show tonight. There'll be free hamburgers, hot dogs, and there'll be watermelon as long as they last. And you are welcome to come out to the community of Tull tonight. We're going to have the John 3:17 ladies down there that are going to be mixing up with us and helping with the games and everything. So if you don't have anything to do tonight, come on down to the community of Tull. We'd love to have you. And then pretty much every city on the face of the map has a big plan tomorrow. All right, I'm coming down to my last 30 seconds. Thanks, Clint and Jennifer, for being in here. Doyle, Barbara, thank you all for being in here. Dallas, go up to my website, and you'll have information about how to sign up for the Constitution Camp. Elizabeth is getting it up there. Should be up there by tonight, and you can go on and get signed up. And we appreciate y'all doing that, and make sure your kids get plugged in to do that. You've been listening to the Kim Hammer Show. Have a great 4th of July, but remember, be safe and don't experiment with those firecrackers, because from one that spoke, it'll hurt your hands if you don't let it go. All right? So, hey, thank y'all for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.